Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Alice Sharma. Hey, Alice, how are you today?
Oh, hey, Caesar. Thank you for having me on the show. It's a great platform to be on. Delighted to be here.
Good. Awesome. Well, before we dive in, let me give a little bit of your background to our listeners so they can kind of get to know you a bit more. Alice is an author of 7 books, a social entrepreneur, founder of an NGO, Cesar R. I think I said that right, based in Delhi, India, India's youngest writer to write and publish 4 books in a day at the age of 21, affiliated with India Book of Records, felicitated with a national award, 100 Inspiring Authors of India, for her book titled Longer Than Forever, being selected as one of the 100 leading ladies of India by the Indian National Bar Association, felicitated with a Women of Excellence Award by the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, reached out and provided assistance to over 350,000 unprivileged people during the pandemic. Wow, like definitely you have so much going on in such an early age. And so I'm very interested to learn more about how you did that many books in just one day. Before we dive into that though, I want to hear about your upbringing and how was that for you? Like tell me more about your upbringing and how was that for you growing up?
Oh, that's a really deep question to begin with. So, I'd say I have had the perfect childhood. Like I come from a typical Indian family, and we are always happily high on love. And my parents have always been supportive throughout since I was a child. I
Yeah.
have literally enjoyed all the freedom. And the best part about my childhood, I'd say, I had the privilege of being spoiled by the endless love that the 3 ladies in my life have managed to give in me. It's my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother. So
Mm.
technically, I've been raised by 3 mothers. So now you can imagine how lucky have I been to enjoy all that attention and love while I was a child. So, on a serious note, since I was a child, I've seen the struggle they've faced in various walks of life. But uh, I've still seen them living their life to the fullest with all their heart, right? So I've always, at least most of the times when they're around me, I've seen them laughing and smiling. My late grandmother, or I'd say the first love of my life, she was
Yeah.
such a strong lady. She was such a strong lady. She always had the spark in her eyes. So I've been raised by 3 ladies who are so selfless when it comes to their family and so strong-headed when it comes to the world around them. So yeah, being raised by 3 ladies who are so powerful in every possible way, I couldn't have asked for a better childhood.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so do you have any siblings or you're the only child?
I have an elder brother as well.
Okay, got you. It's interesting. Definitely, being able to have the love of not just one mother, as you mentioned, kind of like having the love of
Oh,
three.
that's the best part.
Right, exactly, because
That's the best part.
you kind of get all of that. So let me ask you this: like growing
Yeah.
up, pretty much growing up with your mom, aunt, and grandmother. Did you aspire
Yeah.
to become or do anything that they were doing, or what was your thing that you wanted to do as you got older?
Um, I would say growing up with them, I started having a clarity about a million things. Like all of these three people that I've mentioned, they're so welcoming when it comes to people around them. So yeah, I would say that warmth has been inculcated in me since I was a child. So yeah, but becoming a social entrepreneur is a whole different story, and we would definitely love to dive into it. But
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
sense of warmth and that sense of being welcoming towards people has definitely been inculcated in me through these three women.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of times, and it's interesting for me also. When I grew up, I had I was blessed, very blessed, similar to you in terms of not having just one mother, having in my case two mothers, my mom and my grandmother, and it's always a blessing, right? You actually had three of them.
Right.
And so, as you were getting older, and what was the one thing you wanted to do when you grew up before you dive into being a social entrepreneur, becoming an author, like going to school? What was that one thing you said, I want to do this? Because I believe that a lot of times people start with a different vision and then they move to something different, right?
Right. So this might sound like more like an irony to you, but while I was a child, I never had a direction in life. Like 90% of the people would say this is one thing that I really want to do. Right. So I never had that one thing until it was in 2013, uh, which is when I, took sort of, when I, grew the mindset that I have to become a social entrepreneur. Before 2013, I don't think I had any plans or any specific direction to look forward to.
Yeah. Well, and do you know why you felt like you didn't have a direction? Was it uh, uh, a culture aspect that you had to go through this one path? Because I hear a lot of that, very similar to like me being from
It's
Mexico.
like, yeah, right. So it's like I come from a family, and 90% of the people, 90% of my family is in the law business. So,
Okay.
including my elder brother. So, that was more like a conventional path for me. It was like, this is something that I have to do. So,
Mm,
it was more like a preconceived notion for me that this is the path that you have to walk on. It was pre-decided for me. So, that might be one reason why I never gave another thought to it.
got it.
But
Yeah, and so the fact that this was something that you had to do. I mean, um, you said, okay, I'm gonna jump into being a social entrepreneur, or do all these different things. How did that all develop for
right,
you? Because a lot of people, uh, as you said, you didn't have that vision, you didn't know what you wanted to do. A lot of
right,
people
right,
need
right.
to kind of figure out how to find that. So how did you find your passion, or the idea of becoming a social entrepreneur?
Both we'll have to go back a lot explaining that.
Yeah.
So the journey of being a social entrepreneur has been quite unpredictable for me, I would say. It all goes back to the year 2013 when I was stuck in the floods that took place in India. I was on a pilgrimage trip to Uttarakhand with my family when the state was hit by the floods. And the intensity of the floods and destruction that it caused was insane. More than 60,000 people were presumed to be dead, and over 1 lakh were missing. And this might sound weird, but the person you're talking to right now was one of them.
Oh, wow.
So I was stuck with my family in a small room that was a roof to 20 other people for as long as 5 days. And we had no food to survive on. It was water all around us. I would say I've seen buildings collapsing into dust, and I've seen people abandoning the dead bodies of their family members because they had to save their own lives first. I won't exaggerate this, but yeah, man, I when I was 15 years old, I had already seen life on the ending edge. I've been at the position where I didn't know if I would ever be able to come back to my own people or my own place. Fortunately, we were rescued by the rescue operations team, But something that I really believe in today is, after going through all the havoc, is when you go through situations that make you witness the very end of life, you transform, right? You
Mhm.
become fearless. You get a whole new purpose. You get a whole new drive. You start taking things seriously more than ever, and you start going out of your way to help people, to ease their suffering. So that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
That's exactly when the realization had hit me, in 2013. But since I was a child back then and I had no platform to execute my plans, I was just another teenager surviving on my parents' money. So I really had no concrete plan to fall back to. But in those years of being in high school, I never really manipulated myself to suppress the voice in my head, because I knew that the kind of realization that I've been hit with, I would definitely come up with something in the social sector. And luckily, things turned around in 2000, I guess 18, and I was in the second year of graduation.
Mhm.
And by then I had already published two written and published two books, and I had received a national award for my second book. Things were going smooth, and while everyone around me was expecting me to take up the writing career, I took the plunge, and I came up with this organization. It's a youth oriented organization. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. And yeah, that's how I came up with the engine.
Yeah. No, and that's definitely huge, to be able to be in that situation, going through those challenges back at home, and saying, okay, there's this idea that I tell people sometimes from a pain point, or something that you're going through, some sort of challenge, a purpose is born, right? And so in your case, it's like, well, let me become a social entrepreneur, which means that I'm going to find a way that I can solve social problems, or affect a social change for whatever is going on, right? And so that's actually,
Totally believe in it.
yeah, exactly, and that's really good, because
Yeah.
again, sometimes you got to go through some downfalls, and be able to get a purpose, or something, a vision, to be able to positively impact not only your life, but the life of other people, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book, right? I mean, at such an early age, when did you first publish your first book? How old were you?
I must have been around 18 or 19. It was in 2017 when I
Yeah.
published the first book.
Yeah. So how did
I've
that
all
idea yeah, how did that
right.
idea come about, right? Because a lot of times people are I don't know if you're asking yourself this, is like, am I a writer? Is people gonna even read my book? What am I gonna write about? Like, what things were going through your head? uh you know and did you feel like, what, yeah, I can write a book, I can actually do this?
Right. So this also has a story to it, and
Yeah.
I would love to share it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's it's like being a writer was also quite unpredictable for me. And I just like I mentioned, I come from a law family background. So after my high school, I had given the entrance, and things were sorted. Like I was all set to get enrolled in a law college. Things were all set, but at the same time I was diagnosed with severe typhoid, so I could not make it to the college somehow, and I had to take this 1 year gap in between. That's when writing happened to me. Writing has always been more like a therapy to me, because that's how I started writing. It has always been more like a therapy to me. I would not say I've never really shied away from the idea of making money out of it.
Hmm.
I've never shied away from making money out of my art. But then again, more than anything, I would this might sound like a little withdrawn, but I still write for myself first. If there is any project that would give me, a lot of money, I would still not take it if my instinct doesn't allow me to. So that's how it goes. so I remember when I've been bedridden for like more than 5 months
Mm,
when I was diagnosed with fever typhoid. So my body had become really weak, so I could not even get out of my bed uh, for anything, whatever it is. So um, when I started feeling better after 4 to 5 months, I don't know what happened to me. I just started writing out of nowhere. I started posting random blogs on WordPress. I started writing these random snippets on my Instagram page. That was I would say my first encounter to being a writer. And the thing about writing was felt good after a long time. Like I said, it acted more like a therapy. And that's the connect that I have with my art even today. The kind of peace and contentment that it brings to me has remained the same throughout. I've been through it all almost. Like I've been an amateur writer, posting random blogs on WordPress, posting snippets and poetries on my writing page on Instagram. Then I got noticed. My work was being admired, and I started writing books. And I became a bestseller. Made it to the Amazon bestsellers. Made it to the Oxford best-selling stands. Got felicitated for the national award and various other accolades. But uh, I've quite been through many ups and downs. But one thing that has remained constant throughout, I would say, is the connect that I have with my art. And like I mentioned earlier, this might sound like a little withdrawn, but I still write for myself first. I've never shied away from the idea of getting paid for my art. And like you mentioned, there's always this insecurity in your heart that
mm,
whatever doesn't sell well, and because at the end of the day we are all in the business to earn money, and I don't think as an artist I should shy away from that fact, or any other artist should shy away from that fact. We are all here to earn money, right? At the end of it,
right.
your art is should pay you at the end of the day. That's the fact about life. Another thing I would say, I've always been honest to my dynamics about life. And I guess that's exactly what keeps me going every time. It's more like my driving force. Like you really have to be honest. And when I say this, I don't mean that you have to be honest to the world outside, but to your own self. Because the moment you start being dishonest externally, it somehow ends up creeping in. And the moment you start becoming dishonest, you start losing that connect with your art. So, yeah, I guess people talk a lot about being in sync with their dreams and passions, but I guess it's equally important to be in sync with your fears and insecurities as well. Like, I've heard about this phrase somewhere, and I'm damn sure you'd agree to it. It says that success and achievements are good for your ego, but fear and failures actually make you learn. And that just
Mm,
makes so much sense. Like success and achievement would just boost your ego, but failures and your fears or your insecurities would actually make you learn on that survival trick about life.
yeah, I definitely love that. That's definitely a golden nugget there. And again, the idea of that is such a great, powerful message for people to take on. The one thing that I like that you mentioned is that you started writing as a therapy for you. The second thing that I
Yeah,
like is that you started writing not with the idea of making money, with the idea of really doing it for yourself. And you know, I'm a fellow writer myself, and I remember when I did my first book, that was the same thing. Is
mm-hmm.
like, I'm not expecting to get compensated for this. I'm doing this more of a self accomplishment, something that was good for me, that, you know, I want to do this for me. Whatever happens after the fact, it's going to happen. And I think that when you take that idea, not just
Exactly.
on book writing, you take that idea on anything in life where you're not really expecting anything in return. You're doing it as a therapy or self satisfaction, or you're doing it to really help yourself. Then at the end of the day, everything's going to come into place, right? And it actually has done it for you. You've done a lot of great things with that. Right now, obviously, you've been able to share that message all over the place. And you're almost sitting at 90,000 followers on Instagram, where people are listening to your
Yes.
voice, hearing what you have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say, right?
Yeah.
What I want to know about is, with all of that, obviously, one of the challenges you've had to overcome is being able to manage being an author at the same time being a social entrepreneur at the same time, right? How were you able to balance those two things for you?
Okay. This is again a deep question.
Yeah.
And I would say it wasn't easy at all to strike the right balance between being an author and being a social entrepreneur. But here's the thing that I've always believed in. When you are passionate about something, you make it happen. You
Mm,
don't give yourself the choice to fail. One thing that has remained constant throughout my journey till this point, whether it was about struggling to get published while I was 20, or giving multiple attempts to make a national record while I was 21, or setting up an NGO while I was 22, I never gave myself an option to give up. I failed at things miserably, but I never really stopped trying because I knew, I had this realization that all of this, it belongs to me. I just have to get out there and claim it. That's the kind of attitude that I've always had in everything that I choose to do, be it becoming an author or be it becoming a social entrepreneur. But that's the realization that I've always had, that all of this belongs to me. I just have to go get out there and just claim it.
yeah. No, that's awesome. The other thing that I want to learn from you is you did 4 books. You published 4 books at the age of 21. That's a lot of books, right?
Yeah.
And so, as you said, I like the idea is like, when you want something so bad, you got to go out and get it. One
True.
is you were one of the youngest writers, and to also publish that many books. How long did it take you to get those books ready for publishing, to be able to have them ready and publish them at the same time?
Okay, now this would probably give me goosebumps to admit, but it took me 24 hours to write and publish the books. And
Wow.
that's what the record was about. So yeah, that's what the record was about. The complete record is being the youngest writer in India to write and publish 4 books in a single day. That is 24 hours. So it took me 24 hours. But again, uh, this again has a story behind it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So yeah. So it took me more than I guess 3 attempts to get there, because like you're an author yourself, so you would completely relate to it.
Yeah.
To manage 4 storylines simultaneously, like it's like one after the another, one after the other, one after the other. It's a hectic thing to manage.
Right.
And when you just have 24 hours in your hand, it's like one attempt was like in the 23 hours, I didn't sleep, I didn't eat, I didn't go anywhere. And I managed to write 3 complete scripts, and the fourth one was on the verge of getting completed. But then I crossed the mark of 24 hours, and I knew I had to attempt it all over again. And I was like, man, this is something that. But then again, all the struggles that you go through, it's you kind of embrace them,
Yeah.
and I still embrace it.
Yeah. No. And
That
then,
was one journey that I would always remember. Like it was that all the attempts, if I talk about all the attempts in a nutshell, it took me around 7 to 8 days. And in those 7 to 8 days, I didn't sleep for even 1 hour.
wow. Wow. That's definitely
Yeah,
a huge commitment, and being able to just, say, what, I want to do this, and I'm going to do this. What was your biggest
true.
lesson? And then because I know, and especially on things such as that you were doing, we learn so many different things. What is one lesson or a few lessons that you've learned from that you want to advise the people that are listening to the show? Because I know there's a lesson. What was that one lesson you've learned?
I would precisely talk about making conversations here. Something that I've experienced with time after working on field with the unprivileged people for like over 4 years now. Spending time with people who come from different economical class and caste backgrounds, I've realized that it's really important to make conversations that would bring a potential difference. I've always believed that if there is one thing that's common among all of us, like the ones surviving in the shelter homes or the ones who have their own roof over their head, if there's one thing common among all of us, it's that we all have boundaries.
Mm,
With all the life experiences that I've been through, I can tell this to you with all the certainty in my heart. And I'm sure you would agree with it. You would never really come across someone in your life who has no boundaries. Right? We all have our own boundaries. These boundaries are different for different people. For some, these might be economical. For others, these might be emotional. But at the end of the day, we all have the boundaries. No one is supreme. And I believe our life in a nutshell is just about fighting down those boundaries with courage in our heart. And yeah, man, being compassionate towards people is the key. We something that I've realized is people have stopped making conversations that do not benefit them.
mm, yeah.
Nobody is ready to go out there and start making conversations with people, even after knowing the fact that y- anything that you say might help someone out there. So yeah, one thing that I would say is people should start making conversations. That really helps.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a great message, and I think we all have something to contribute, some shape or form. And a lot of times we don't know what people are going through. So that one thing that you might have
Exactly.
said, right, can make an impact or can make a big difference. Um, Talking about
Right.
boundaries, how do you, I guess, how do you build boundaries? Number one, and how can somebody find them, right? Because a lot of times people do not know
Right.
how to build boundaries. They don't know how to say no or yes to certain things. And I think I agree with you for sure. Once you start building those boundaries, you're communicating better with people, then things are gonna be way better for you and or for the other person, right? Except that's the challenge that we have right
Exactly.
now. So what is your suggestion and or advice in terms of starting to communicate better and start building boundaries?
I guess it all comes along with experiences. Like, I am someone who never used to have boundaries, and I'm not even lying about this. People who know me would relate to this. If I talk about myself, uh, 5 years back from today, I don't think I had any boundaries, be it emotional or mental boundaries. I was very welcoming towards people, but then that's what life is about, right? You go through a certain experiences that transform you, and that transformation depends. It could be a positive or a negative one, and you just have to balance out the impacts of it, because at some point in life, having boundaries, I would say, is very important for your
Mhm.
own mental health and for your own mental peace. You really have to have the boundaries. There is no option, because see, it's as simple as this. There are more than a million opinions around you,
Mhm.
and you cannot give a thought to each one of them. Like, if I talk about my personal story, when I started I when I took made the switch from pursuing law to becoming a writer, then I took the plunge from being a writer to a struggling social entrepreneur. People around me had this one opinion that, dude, what the hell are you doing with your life? Like, everything would crash down. It is not possible for you to manage everything, on your own shoulders at on this point. Like, managing your studies, managing your books, managing a whole NGO, it's not going to be an easy walk. And that was true. That was true. I knew it was never going to be an easy walk. And that's when I started, realizing the difference between the toxic boundaries and the healthy boundaries.
Mm.
That's when I came to realize the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Protecting yourself requires having boundaries, I would say. So it's really, really important you start having boundaries. If you're someone who allows people to interfere in your life, or uh, if you're someone who gets easily attached to people mentally or emotionally, that's fatal. That's fatal. I would say that's fatal.
Yeah, I like that, the idea of what you mentioned. There's so many opinions around us, and
Right.
obviously we don't create those boundaries. Then you're right. I mean, where we definitely can go with their own path, or again, the mental aspect or even the emotional aspect can be very cumbersome, and it can also not be healthy for you. Um, Talking about boundaries, and this leads me to my next question is, obviously your family is all from lawyers and in that industry, right? Did you had a lot of voices, a lot of those opinions saying, hey, what are you doing, like this is a better career versus being a social entrepreneur or an author? Like, how many people try to talk you out of it, whether it's family or friends or close friends, that maybe there was a lot of opinions? And so how do obviously that I'm assuming that was a tough situation for you, right?
um right. So I would not be talking much about this because I guess my family is also going to hear this podcast. So
Yeah.
I would choose to probably stay shut on about this. But kidding. But yeah, on a serious note, as a person, I've always been someone who would listen to myself first before anyone else. It's like you could put 1,000 people in front of me with this one opinion. I would still do manage to do my own stuff, even if I know that something that I'm trying to do might not work out at the end of it. But I would still somehow go into it with the same energy.
Mm, yeah.
And I would also say that I'm not that vocal about my personal stuff. Like when it comes to my dreams, my passions, I don't give many people the access to know it. Like I mentioned, I have boundaries. So yeah, that's real. I have real boundaries. Like I don't allow people to have an access to my stuff that easily. So it's like when I was going through all of this, from switching careers, from becoming a writer, from to taking a plunge to become a social entrepreneur. Um, I, I there were a very few people who knew about this, including a few members from my family, immediate members from my family who I live with, and just one close friend.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I have a very, I would say, a very small circle of friends. It's like just two or three people with whom I discuss my stuff with, and yeah, that's what it is about.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, that's interesting because a lot of times, people, that are so close to your age would have a lot of friends or will have a lot of people around them, right? And there's, I heard this at one point is, and it's a quote by this guy named Les Brown, and he said, if you want to go all the way to the top, you got to make sure that stay on the top, because the bottom is overcrowded, meaning there's so many people at the bottom, and when you want to
At
go
the
to the
bottom,
top, you're
right?
very lonely. There's not that many people, only a very small group of friends or a circle of friends, because again, is the bottom that's overcrowded, right? And that's kind of like what you're talking about right now. It's like you're not
Exactly.
giving that access. So what do you do in a case where people may not accept your boundaries or the way you go about it? You just say, well, I'm not gonna deal with this person, and at the end of the day, it's like I want to have a healthy relationship versus a toxic relationship.
Um, I choose to ignore it simply.
Definitely, right?
That's exactly what I do. I
Yeah,
simply choose to ignore it.
yeah. Well, that's good. I like what you have here to say, and you said, for the people that are listening, is to go with your gut feeling. People today are so overpowered and influenced by the external voices that exist outside their mind that they really stop listening to themselves. There shouldn't ever be a second doubt when it comes down to following your dreams. I love what you just mentioned there. Can you elaborate on that? Because again, it is again the outside opinions or the things that are in your mind sometimes
Right,
can help us not move forward, right? So can you elaborate on that?
right.
Because I think that's huge.
Sure, sure. What I meant by when I said external voices, people often, I would say, fail to differentiate the difference between their own voice versus the opinions around them.
Mm,
And that's exactly when they lose their path. Like when I personally started with the journey of being a social entrepreneur, there's a thing about social entrepreneurship. I haven't mentioned it anywhere till now, but I would say this at your platform today.
mhm,
Being a social entrepreneur, we don't chase profits, we chase a purpose, and there's a huge difference between the two.
mm,
Like when I was 22 and I started an NGO, I was also being stuck by this idea that what if you never be able to earn the money that you require in your life? Because the hard fact of life, who wouldn't want to be on the list of millionaires under 25, right? So being a social entrepreneur is never about making profits, it's rather about making a difference. Being a social entrepreneur, I would say, isn't about acing the business charts or hitting turnovers worth lakhs, but it's always about breaking through the preconceived norms, notions, and stereotypes. We don't chase profits, we chase a purpose, and the purpose is to make lives less vulnerable, and that drive doesn't stop, you
yeah,
know. So that's exactly when I learned to differentiate between the voice that was in my head, that was my own, versus the voices that were around me.
yeah. And
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 I guess the noises, the voices around us are just opinions that don't matter most of the times.
right. Yeah, and I always tell people too, if you're working for profits, you're doing it
Right,
wrong. You got to be working for purpose, and the money will come.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
I see it this a lot too. Even when I got into business as an entrepreneur myself, and it's other people. A lot of times, the first thing that people have is, I'm gonna do this, whatever that might be. I'm gonna do this for the money, without realizing that if there's no purpose behind it, that dream is gonna come to an end pretty soon. And so, just like
True.
you're saying, I totally believe that you have to be working for purpose, not for profits, and everything else is going to fall into place. It may not be in a
Exactly.
month or in a year. It might be 5 years. It might be whatever period of time for whatever you're doing. Except if you continue to be walking on that purpose, it's going to come. Eventually, it's going to come. I do believe that, and so I really enjoyed that and love that about you. That you're definitely doing that from that perspective, from that angle, which is amazing. um, your books, what are your books about? What are some of the things that people can take away from your books? What is the main topics that you cover in your books?
Right. So I write for various genres and fiction, non-fiction, both of them.
Okay.
Um, One thing that I would want people to read, or one book that I would recommend people to read, is The Unheard Tales. That's a book that I've written, and it's based on the real life anecdotes. And yeah, I guess people can, take a lot of stuff from that if you read it from a productive perspective.
Right.
you can definitely take a lot from that book.
Yeah, awesome. And are you working on any new books right now, or what is your next big project that you're working on?
To be honest, I am not working in the field of writing in terms of books right now. Because I guess uh, I right now at this point in my life, I am more dedicated towards social entrepreneurship.
Right.
But yeah, I would definitely start working on the sequel of the book that became a huge hit.
Yeah. Right.
But right now, I am in that zone where I'm fully dedicated to the social entrepreneurship right now.
Got it. Is there a particular area that you're focusing your time and energy in terms of your journey of being a social entrepreneur? Is that primarily in India or different places, or what is your main focus right now?
The main focus that I have for the organization is not just one, but three.
Okay.
We are currently working on three fronts to our organization.
Okay.
And the first one is we are aiming to support and encourage the holistic development of the unprivileged children in India. Many unprivileged children today are tied down by their economical boundaries. I'm sure you would agree to this. And although there has been a lot of improvement in the literacy levels over the
Mhm.
last decade, but there's still a large section of children who are unsure about themselves. And we are aiming to encourage their development by arranging for recreational activities and life skill sessions, which help them in giving a clarity about their true identities and capabilities. So we sort of help them coming out of their bubbles. That's the first thing that we're trying to do through our organization.
Mhm.
The second thing is that we arrange for legal aid workshops that are centered mainly around the development of the unprivileged women. It's like we aim to uplift and empower them not just in words but through actions as well.
Mhm.
Through these legal aid workshops, we make sure that there's awareness among these unprivileged women against domestic violence, verbal violence, and mental harassment. And I'm sure you've heard about this phrase that says, if there's something that truly liberates you, my friend, it's education and awareness, both.
Mhm.
So that's exactly what we try to do through our organization. There's a large segment of the unprivileged women who are unaware about their own individual rights. And unfortunately, that's not just about India, that's a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
We raise awareness and make sure that we provide them all the aid that they might need in rebelling against the norms of patriarchy. And final and the third thing that we've been working upon since the pandemic, we are on a mission to feed the helpless. Like during the pandemic, there were so many downtrodden and unprivileged people who had no access to food, and I'm sure you've seen that happening in your country as well.
Yeah.
So that's when we started distributing meals for the poor, and it's been 3 years now, and we've been working endlessly in combating hunger. And I guess we're doing pretty well on our level. Like with the loving support of our community, we've successfully reached out and served over 350,000 people and fed them with nutritious meals during the pandemic. So
Yeah.
yeah, these in a nutshell, these are the three fields that we're working upon right now.
Yeah, that's huge, and that's a definitely a huge mission, and definitely for the people that are listening to, if they're are you taking people to assist and or support your mission in any shape or form, or how do you get all of these things funded?
We are currently working through crowdfunding. Like we have our crowdfunding networks and people from all over the country, even from abroad, if they would want, they can support monetarily.
Okay, good. Yeah, so for definitely for the people that are listening to, if they want to be able to do that, where they can help support this with through donations, or how can they get a hold of you to learn more about what you're doing and help in that cause?
Right. So firstly, thank you for pitching in a word for that. That's
Yeah,
really very sweet of you. People who would want to contribute or maybe just know a little more about what we do, they can just simply Google, and they can simply search over Google. It's Vastra or Zindagiya Foundation, and yeah, they'll have an overview of what we do, and they'll have a clarity on how they can get connected if they want.
gotcha. And they can also connect with you on Instagram if they wanted to obviously learn more, and I'll have that information here for the people that are listening, and connect with you. Obviously, at your early age, you're doing a lot of great things. You have a great mission in front of you. Um, so with all of that, have you or are you working on your mental state, or do you have any daily habits that you do to put you in this positive state of mind and then put you on this mission? Do you do anything daily that is a kind of like a ritual or a habit?
Um, I have started doing things because at some point in time, I've realized that it's important to train yourself spiritually, not just mentally, not just physically, but spiritually as well. And I've been indulging in meditation sessions and a few things as well. And yeah, man, that's really helping me. And the other thing that I do on a regular basis is I read a lot of books. And yeah, that really helps in clearing up my thoughts, and it really gives me a clarity. So, in a nutshell, two things that I do without fail is I read for at least 2 hours per day before I sleep, and that doesn't matter. Like, I could go to bed at 11 or 12 in the night, or even 1 in the night, but I would still make myself read for at least 2 hours,
Wow.
because that really helps me clear my mind. So yeah, the two things that I would really suggest people to go along with, one is meditation. It really helps you. Like I have never been someone who would and it makes me laugh because a few months before this, I never thought I would be the one to go on a podcast show and talk about the benefits of meditation. But I've been through a certain things in life, and uh, meditation, I guess, was the only way out from those
Yeah.
things, and it really helps you cut down the toxic things in life. So
Mhm.
yeah, one thing is meditation, and the second one is reading for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love that. And at the end of the day, it's like we just gotta make sure that we create some sort of habits and start doing some
Yeah.
sort of discipline or something to be able to improve our lives. You've given us a lot of great content, a lot of great information. I have one last question for you before I let you go. The question I have for you is for the people that are listening to us and are watching us. If they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing you can say to them so they can start overcoming that challenge?
um it's going to be a straightforward reply from my side. Just go with your gut feeling, man. That's
Mm,
the best thing that you can put yourself in. Like, from everything that I've been through, from everything that I've experienced, I can tell you two things in life. And I guess I am just a little more fortunate to have the opportunity of learning these two things at quite an early age. The first thing I would say is follow your gut feeling, because trust me, it knows things
mhm.
far better than you would probably ever figure out. So yeah, just go with your gut feeling. And the second thing I would say, you are on yourself. You, like, I've seen people getting dependent on people. It could be their relationships, it could be their friendships or their family. But at the end of the day, something that I would advise you, you have your own self, and when it will come to you, there would be no one coming for your rescue. You just have to survive through things alone. Having having emotional and mental support from people is one thing, but becoming dependent on them for every small thing in your life is another thing. And I guess you should never do that. You should never do that. So
Mm,
yeah, two things in life that I would suggest for anyone who's going through a tough phase right now. Just remind yourself, keep reminding yourself that you are so much more than this, because this is exactly what I do every time. Like whenever I'm faced with a situation that puts me down, I just walk up to a mirror and I just look at myself in the eyes and I just remind myself that you're so much more than this, dude. So that's
yeah.
exactly what I would recommend people to do.
I love that. I definitely love that, and I love the gut feeling. And I also love the fact that, again, don't be dependent. Obviously, you're okay to have that
Right.
emotional support, and it's like this saying, even if you have a,
Having,
yeah.
yeah, right.
And what I was gonna say is, even if you're having a husband or wife, the one thing you have to remember is that when you go to sleep in that bed, although you might be sleeping by the side of somebody, you're sleeping by yourself, right? I mean, technically,
Exactly.
there's
Exactly my
somebody there,
point.
but mentally you're by yourself. And that's if you
Exactly.
have a husband or wife. If you don't have any of that and you're single, at the end of the day, I can show you the tools. I can teach you the way. I can give you all this advice. At the end of the day, you have to be the one that's gonna walk through that door, not necessarily me
Exactly.
pushing you through it. So that's very, very good to say that. Yeah.
Having emotional attachment, I would say, is a very good thing in life. Like when you have someone to fall back to, that's probably the best, one of the best feelings in the world. It's like you are being protected, but there's a very you know small difference between being protected and being dependent,
Mm,
and
yeah.
there should be a balance between the two, I would say.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that. Yeah, no, Alice, great talking to you. Really love all the topics. You've done a lot of great things at such an early age, and I love the mission you have behind all of this, which is amazing. And we definitely need more people like you in this world. Anything else you want to share or say to the listeners before I let you go?
um I guess that's all from my side. That's all from my side. And yeah, I guess that's all from my
Yeah.
side.
Definitely. Well, again, thank you again for being on the show. Really appreciate everything that you're doing, and thank you for sharing the things you've
Thanks for
endured.
having me.
Yeah, definitely, and all the stuff that you've gone through. and um
Yeah.
and yeah, for the rest of you guys, do me a favor, please make sure that you connect with Alice at her Instagram account. Check out the mission she's going after and see if you can assist with that. And do me a favor and share this with people, because somebody definitely needs to hear this message. And I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.